Today I am going to be teaching you all about the brand new Cricut hat press. I am going to be sharing some of my favorite tips and tricks for getting the best results when you're using this heat press. Now, if you're ready to make customized DIY hats, you are going to love this heat press. A big thanks to Cricut for sending me this hat press and for sponsoring this video. If you're new here, welcome to Sweet Red Poppy. I'm Kim. Make sure that you subscribe to my YouTube channel if you love all things Cricut. My step-by-step video tutorials will help you to get the very most out of your Cricut machines. Now today I am going to take you through two different projects using the Cricut hat press. The Cricut hat press is compatible with heat transfer vinyl, such as iron-on, as well as sublimation, which means it works with Cricut's Infusible ink. Now in this tutorial, I will be making two different hats. I'm going to share instructions for using iron-on, as well as using Infusible ink. Feel free to craft along with me as you watch this video. I've broken this video down into 7 easy steps, and that's going to guide you through this process with tons of helpful tips and tricks. I've also included chapters throughout this video, that way you can easily see a specific portion of the video or even re-watch different segments in case you need to see something again. So you can find a list of chapters with timestamps listed in the description below this video. You can also hover over the timeline to view them individually. Now, when I'm teaching, I like to go really in depth into every single step. That way you gain a solid understanding of the why behind everything that we're doing. Now that means when you go to do this project on your own in the future, you're going to understand how to problem solve as well as troubleshoot any problem that might arise. If at any point I go too fast or maybe you're not ready to move on, you can always just pause the video and then press play once you're ready to move forward. Now, before we jump right into our tutorial, there are a few things that I want to cover about working with hats because it will impact the designs that you select. Now, knowing these things beforehand, this is going to set you up for success. So when it comes to working with hats, we are working with a 3D object with a very obviously curved surface, and this can present a few different challenges. I promise they're easily managed with just a little bit of planning. First off, with our ball cap, there is a fairly prominent seam line, and that runs right along the front of the hat. This is what allows the hat to be curved and have its rounded shape. Now naturally, seams are a bit bulky because you end up with multiple layers of fabric when you're joining two different pieces of fabric together. When you're applying something directly on top of a seam line, it's best to have a thicker design that can really hold its own and not get lost or even distorted in the bulkiness of that seam. Now, if you're just starting out, I would suggest selecting a design with a thicker font or an illustration that's a little bit thicker. That will set you up for the most success. It's also important to make sure that the design you are transferring can easily go from being a flat 2D image to being applied to a rounded 3D object without any distortion. So what that means is that applying a large bulky rectangle to a curved surface might not work very well because you would end up with some gaping where the design doesn't want to lay flat against the base. You might even have some material that's overlapping. So instead, you'll want to look for a design that has a little bit of negative space, especially along the top where you can cut some small slits into the backing. That's going to allow the transfer to really curve and form around your hat. You'll also want to size your design to fit within a 2.25 inch by 4.25 inch rectangle. Now this is the recommended size for transfers based off of the size of our Cricut hat press heat plate. Now, this is going to ensure that your transfer fully adheres to the base within one single press. I'm going to go into way more detail on this in step 1. Now, if you want to transfer a larger design or even multiple designs, you'll want to apply and press it in separate sections for the very best results. This is going to make sure that each section gets the recommended amount of time, heat, and pressure. Now that we've covered all of that information, let's get started. Here are the supplies that you will need for this project, all of which can be found on Cricut.com. A Cricut hat press, a Cricut hat pressing form, strong heat-resistant tape, iron-on or infusible ink, a Cricut machine, butcher paper, a standard grip mat, a weeding tool, a lint roller, and a compatible hat. Now, Cricut currently has two options. They have this gray cap as well as our white trucker hat. These are both compatible with iron-on as well as infusible ink. You could also opt to use a non-Cricut branded hat, but you'll want to keep a few things in mind. First off, it needs to be heat resistant. You can check for this by pressing in an inconspicuous spot just to make sure that it doesn't melt or react negatively to heat. Step 1, create your image in Design Space. Let's go ahead and head over to Cricut Design Space and select a few images. Now I'm going to be working on my laptop for this design, but feel free to use Design Space on your phone or your tablet. Go ahead and open up Cricut Design Space and click on the plus sign to create a new project. Now in the top right-hand corner, you'll want to make sure that your experience is being optimized for your specific machine. Here you can select Projects, then you can search for the Hat Press Design Setup. Cricut actually created this rounded rectangular guide to help you when you're designing your hat transfers. So you can click on the project and then select Customize. This is going to bring up the design setup to your canvas where you can use it as a guide. Now go to Images and you can scroll through Design Space Images and find an image that you like. You can use the search bar at the top if you want to find something really specific. Alternatively, you could also select Image Sets, and then you could look through sets of designs that are all related. I'm going to select a few different designs from the image set Popular Typography. Once you find an image or images that you're happy with, select them and then press Add Image to Canvas. Now, I like to select a few different options, and that's because I'm going to be working with Infusible ink as well as iron-on. Go ahead and drag your image over to your hat template. From here, you can scale the design up or down using the arrows in the bottom right-hand corner. Now this is going to make sure it fits inside of the rectangular guide. I'm going to scale my image down just a little bit. Now I can see that my design is going to work really well with my curved hat because there's that negative space around the letters, and I can clip out those little darts or notches that we talked about earlier. Now once you're happy with your design, select Make It in the top right-hand corner, and that's going to take you to the Prepare screen. Now this next step is really important when you're working with iron-on as well as Infusible ink. Both of these materials require you to mirror them if you're using an image or even text that is not symmetrical. So go ahead and select the Mirror button below the material size, and this is going to enable this feature. Now iron-on and Infusible ink both need to be mirrored because they're cut from the back of the material with your liner side facing down towards the mat. So once they're removed from the mat, they are then flipped over and applied with the material pressed against the base. So if you skip this step, when you apply your design to your base, it will appear backward. Go ahead and select Continue in the bottom right to go to the Make screen. You want to ensure that your Cricut machine is turned on and that you've connected to your device. Here you can select the material you're going to be using as well as the material settings. Step 2. Load the mat and cut the design. Next, insert your mat or your smart material into your machine. You're going to slide it right under your little white grooves. Then go ahead and press your blinking arrows. This is going to load your mat. It's just going to double check that your mat's inserted correctly, and it's going to measure. Now once it's finished, you can press your play or Cricut C button. It's going to depend on the model that you're using, what that looks like, and it's going to begin cutting. Now once your machine has finished the cutting process, go ahead and press your arrows to unload your mat. Now you can go ahead and turn your machine off and set it aside if you're finished using it. Step 3, weed the design. Now it's time for us to weed. Now to do this, I am going to be removing all of the material that I do not want to transfer to my project. So when I'm working with iron-on, I like to start by weeding in the corner of my project. What I'm going to do is press the tip of the weeding tool into the material just to hook it, but I'm not going to pierce the clear protective carrier sheet. Now, once you have your corner up, it's best to use a 45-degree angle and just slowly peel away your excess iron-on. You want to be really careful not to rip any of your material in this process. I'm going to use my weeding tool just to get the insides of my letters out as well. Now here's a little pro tip for you. Go ahead and flip your mat right side facing down, and then gently peel your mat away from your material. Now, removing your material this way is going to prevent your design from rolling up, creasing, or even bubbling, all of which could negatively affect your transfer. Don't worry, your Cricut mat is designed to be able to bend without cracking or breaking. I'm going to go ahead and do this with my Infusible ink as well. And you'll notice I have not weeded this. You'll want to keep it just as is. Now, if you're using Infusible ink, you'll want to gently roll your design back and forth just like this, and this is going to separate your cut lines, making them a little bit more visible. It also makes it easier to remove any excess paper from your design. So go ahead and weed away the negative pieces of your design that you don't want to transfer to your hat. Now go ahead and flip your design over so that you're looking down at it from the shiny carrier side. This is a really good time to make sure that your design has been cut correctly, and also a good time to make sure that you weeded everything. So make sure that it reads correctly from the front and that you didn't miss any small little pieces. Sometimes you might have missed like the inside of the E or the O, so just double check both of those. I'm going to flip this one over and look at it as well, and everything looks good. Next, let's go ahead and trim down the transfer and add in some slits. Since I'm a seamstress, I think of this as kind of like similar to the concept of adding in darts when you're sewing clothing. So in order to make a flat 2D image fit onto our rounded 3D object, you really need to add in some darts to help it form to the shape. So this is going to help you manipulate the shape of the transfer, and it gives it a tight, nice, close fit, and that allows it to fully adhere to the base without having any issues. Now, to do this, you'll want to clip into the carrier sheet of the design at an angle, making sure to avoid your actual iron-on or Infusible ink material. That's really important. Clip again, and then you can remove that little triangular carrier sheet, and these little darts are going to allow your design really to be able to bend and form around your hat. And you can see my carrier sheet moves so much more freely now. Now, your liner, carrier, backing sheet, whatever you want to call it, it needs to be trimmed down as close to your material as possible. Step 4, connect your hat press to Cricut Heat. The Cricut hat press is Bluetooth enabled, and it's compatible with the Cricut Heat app. Now this is going to provide you with a guided, step-by-step, fail-proof experience. It's kind of like having your own little Cricut expert at the touch of a button. Now the Cricut Heat app is a free download. It can be found in the Apple App Store or in the Google Play Store. To register your Cricut hat press, you will need to create an account within the Cricut Heat app. While the Cricut Heat app is required for activation, you can opt to use the hat press all on its own, but I would recommend that you use the app and have the guided experience. Now go ahead and plug your hat press in and turn on your power button. Now within the Cricut Heat app, I'm going to select my hat press and connect it via Bluetooth. Then I can select Start New Project. Press Select next to the transfer material, and this is going to help you find the material that you're going to apply to your base. Next, you can select the base you will be applying it to. Now, if you're not sure what your base is made out of, you can always refer to the tag on the inside of your base for more detailed information. Select Next in the top right-hand corner. This is going to display a project overview, and it's going to guide you through the entire pressing process. You can see that there's a really short list of the recommended settings that are displayed with really easy to read steps. In case you feel like you need a little additional insight or instructions, go ahead and click on Detailed Instructions below for more information. This is going to provide you with a video as well as images to guide you through the process in even more detail. Next, click Send Settings to Hat Press. This is going to preheat your hat press and tell it exactly what's required for this material as well as this base. Now, the hat press needs to be fully heated before we begin the press. This is to ensure that the correct temperature is achieved and maintained throughout the entire pressing process. The Cricut hat press features 3 temperature settings, and this is going to help you achieve flawless transfers with a wide variety of materials and bases. As a quick reminder, after 13 minutes of inactivity, your Cricut hat press will automatically shut off, but it will give you a little warning beep 30 seconds before it shuts off. Now, while my hat press is heating up, let's go ahead and work on preparing our hat. Step 5, secure the hat to the hat form. Now it's time to fit our hat onto our hat form. So you'll want to begin by removing the cardboard insert from the inside of your hat. Now this is used to help keep the hat's shape, and if you're planning on reselling your custom hats, be sure to hold on to this and then insert it back into the hat after you've completed your design. Next, fold the hat sweatband outward, and this is going to create a flat pressing surface by eliminating the bulkiness of this sweatband fabric. Now, if you keep your sweatband in place, your design could end up with a small ridge across it, and it can interfere with your material fully adhering to the hat. So go ahead and flip this entire sweatband up out of the way. Now go ahead and pull your hat onto the rounded side of your hat form. Your handle should be on the other side away from the hat. And I'm just going to make sure that the sweatband is all the way out. If you need, you may need to uncinch your back a little bit to get it on the form, or even unclasp it. Then you just want to make sure it's nice and snug on here. Now that we have it on the form, it's really important to tighten the back of your hat. You want to make sure that there are no gaps, wrinkles, or even bumps between your Cricut hat and pressing form. So it should really be as smooth and tight as possible. Now this step is really important because this is what ensures that you have a firm pressing surface, which is going to distribute the heat and pressure evenly. Step 6, preheat the hat and position the transfer. Now our Cricut hat press features this nice rounded heating plate that's designed to work specifically with hats. The heat plate has a coating of protection, and that's what allows it to easily glide across the surface of a material. And it's really important because the Cricut hat press requires a steady back and forth movement throughout the pressing process, and we'll be using this back and forth movement in this step as we preheat our hat and then prepare it for the transfer. Now you'll want to begin by lint rolling the front of your hat. Now when we're lint rolling, this is done to remove any stray fibers or debris that may be on your hat. And this is really important, again, if you're using infusible ink, because the high temperature of heat required for infusible ink can actually cause those stray little fibers to turn a bright blue color, and they can stain your hat, which can be really disappointing. So make sure that your hat is nice and clean. Just gonna go back and forth, removing any debris. I like to even go a little bit around where my transfer will be applied, just to make sure nothing gets in the way. Now, the purpose of preheating your hat is to remove any wrinkles, moisture, or chemicals from the hat that could possibly interfere with our transfer. Now, let's place a piece of butcher paper over the front of the hat and then select the preheat option within the Cricut Heat app. Now, the butcher paper is there to protect your base from any direct heat. Once your Cricut hat press is preheated and the button has turned green, it's time to preheat the hat. So hold your pressing form handle with your non-dominant hand and then position your press over the hat with the other hand, and you're just going to gently slide back and forth right over the area where you're going to be placing your transfer. You're going to do this for 5 seconds, and then you can remove your hat press and place it back into its insulated base. Now, don't worry if your hat cools down before you have to apply the transfer. That's okay. Let's move on to positioning the design onto our hat. There are a few things that you should keep in mind when you're doing this. The front panel is going to be the very best place to apply a design. You can also apply a heat transfer to the side of your ball cap or even to the back panel, but you'll want to avoid pressing any design onto the mesh areas of the trucker hat. Now, if possible, you'll want to avoid pressing any design over the eyelets of your hat. These small reinforced holes are placed on the hat to provide breathability, and with a hat that's primarily a synthetic fiber of anywhere between 80 to 100% polyester, breathability really is important. Now, one last thing to keep in mind is that iron-on can be applied to the brim of the Cricut trucker hat as well as the Cricut ball cap. However, infusible ink should be avoided because the high temperature could possibly melt or even warp the brim. Now, the next step is one of my favorite tips for ensuring even placement. I like to fold my transfer in half with the carrier sides together and align the edges, and then I just gently mark the center fold along the top and bottom, and I'm doing this without pinching the actual material, just the transfer sheet. So just to give me an idea of where my midpoint is. Now, it's also really important to ensure that your design is placed 0.5 inches away from the seam where your hat meets the brim. Now, this is going to allow your heat plate to fully cover the design. If you happen to apply the transfer right next to the brim, it really won't get enough heat or pressure to transfer. Now, go ahead and place one piece of your strong heat-resistant tape on the side of your transfer. Now, position your design onto your hat, making sure to align the center of your design with the center seam of your hat. And as I'm laying this down, I'm remembering not to get too close to this seam line along the brim. And then go ahead and just press down hard on your tape just to make sure that it really adheres to your hat. Now what you want to do is pull this gently, but make sure that it's nice and taut, and then bring it over to this other side. And we're going to put another piece of tape over here. Now, something that I've learned from testing this process over and over is that you really can't go wrong with adding tape. I would actually recommend that you be rather aggressive with how much tape you apply to your transfer and your hat. When you are trying to force a flat surface to form to a curved surface, tape really is going to be your best friend. I'm going to go ahead and add a few more pieces of tape along the top as well as the bottom. Feel free to add another piece of tape to any other area that might be sticking up or just needs a little bit of help. You really want your design to be as flat against the hat as possible. Now, our next step is to inspect the placement, and that's just to make sure that we're happy with the design and make sure that it's centered. I'm going to look from side to side to make sure that it's centered, as well as from top to bottom. I'm also looking to make sure that I have a good even spacing along my brim. Now my design is kind of curved, so it's a little bit tricky, but it feels like it's on there pretty straight. Next, I am going to add a layer of my butcher paper over the design, and then I'm going to tape it along both sides. Now this is going to create a bit of a smoother surface, and it protects the area around my design from being damaged by the heat plate. I'm going to repeat this exact same process with my Infusible ink hat as well. Step 7, heat the transfer and reveal your finished design. Now this next step you're going to be following along with your app because it's going to give you specific instructions by taking into account your base as well as your material, which means the time, pressure, and even temperature will all be affected by that combination. Now I'm going to start with my iron-on design first. So place your hat press onto the design, start your timer, and you're just going to gently rock from side to side. I like to kind of peek around the side just to make sure I am covering my transfer fully. You're going to do this back and forth until your timer beeps. Now once your timer beeps, go ahead and place it back into the insulated base. Now if you're using iron-on, it's likely a cool peel. This means that you'll want to wait 1 to 2 minutes or until your design is completely cool to the touch before you peel it away. Now I know you might be pretty excited, but trust me, you really do want to wait the full 1 to 2 minutes because if you don't, your design may not transfer to your base completely. So once it's ready and it's cooled down, slowly peel it away from the hat. I'm going to begin by removing my butcher paper, and then I am going to remove my carrier sheet and tape. Now, if you have any lifting, meaning that your iron-on is still attached to the carrier sheet, you'll want to stop peeling it away from the base and lay it right back down into its original spot. If this happens, you will want to apply 10 to 15 seconds of additional heat at the exact same temperature. Now, if you peel away your carrier sheet and the iron-on stays in place, that means you successfully completed your transfer. Let's go ahead and do our Infusible ink hat next. So I'm just going to apply my design. And when you're applying the Infusible ink design, I am lining up my mid marking with this top seam. And then I'm just making sure I have a consistent gap along the bottom I'm gonna pull this nice and tight and tape it in place. Sorry, this goes next. Place your hat press onto your design and carefully glide back and forth. Now apply light pressure, and this is going to be a 90-second press with my Infusible ink. Now something I will say is Infusible ink is a little bit more finicky than iron-on, so you really want to make sure you're keeping that design fully covered and that heat is applied the entire time. For Infusible ink, you will be instructed to do a warm peel. What that means is just wait a few seconds until it's cooled so that you don't burn your fingers because it is a really high temperature. Once you do that, just remove your butcher paper first, and then you're going to peel back your transfer sheet as well as your tape. Now, a good sign that you had a successful sublimation transfer is when you don't have any color left on your sheet. Now you can go ahead and press done within the Cricut Heat app. Also, be sure to turn off your Cricut hat press once you're finished using it. And I'm gonna go ahead and set that aside for now. Now take a moment to admire your hard work and your customized hats. They are so impressive. To care for your custom hats, you'll want to allow your transfer to cure for 24 hours before you wash it. If you do need to wash your hat, you'll want to hand wash it in cold water. You'll also want to make sure to avoid using any bleach on your hat, as this could damage the design as well as the hat. After you wash it, set it in a safe place to dry. I like to place the cardboard insert that came with it back inside of the hat, and that's going to help it to dry in the correct shape without being misshapen. Now, let me know if you have any iron-on, Infusible ink, or even Cricut hat press questions in the comments below. If you found this video helpful, give it a thumbs up. Go ahead and feel free to share it with your Cricut-loving friends or even in your favorite Cricut group. For even more step-by-step tutorials, be sure to subscribe to my channel, Sweet Red Poppy, and go take a look at all of my other Cricut tutorials. I will be back next week with another Cricut video.